we've talked about this a couple of times, but it bears repeating. The top two players, I think clearly the best two players in the NBA now are Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Gesundheit.
I knew that was coming.
Okay.
And Joel Embiid was the MVP. Those are three international players. The last 5 MVPs have been won by international players. And now tonight, the number 1 draft pick, Victor Wembanyama, he is from France. And if he becomes what a lot of scouts and executives are projecting, he might be the best player we've ever seen. And so we have some great young American players. We've talked about Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller and what they may be able to become. And then you've got guys already in the league, the Jason Tatums, the Ja Morants, the Zion Williamsons, the Donovan Mitchell. So there are a lot of great young players. Obviously, LeBron and Steph are older, and they'll be out of the league within the next 5 years or so. Do you think that we need to look at how we are developing our players? Because right now, for the first time in the history of basketball, the best players are not born in the United States. And I'm talking about the handful of best,
but still, but it's an indictment, Chris. It is an indictment on the development of players, and we keep hearing this with the AAU infusion and playing a lot of games rather than practicing.
Right.
Even when we talk to NBA players, they don't practice anymore in the NBA. They don't practice their game.
Right.
It's about playing games at the AAU level, playing 8 games in a weekend or whatever. Where's the practice about the pass and understanding the game and what it is to do?
Right.
And that's what's being lost. And the players you're talking about, Chris, are all fundamentally sound.
Yes.
They are all fundamentally sound.
The international
players. It's not flashy or whatever, and they can't jump 2 inches off the ground.
Well,
but you know,
and Luka,
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Giannis obviously
can jump out the gym.
Right.
But I'm saying the bulk of these guys
Right.
are fundamentally sound, and that's what you got. There's nothing wrong with having talent, Chris, but you got to develop it. These guys are talented. American players are talented, but you need them to also develop their games. And you know, I hear a lot when I talk to former or executives in the NBA, and it's like, trying to get these guys to learn how to play winning basketball.
Yes.
They know how to play basketball, but do they know how to play winning basketball? And I think that's what's missing. And when you know how these AAU teams, if you're a star, you get to run amok and do whatever you want, and there's no coaching. And, when the Ball brothers were playing, Chris, they just run the coach.
They would cherry pick it.
Right, they would cherry pick. What coach would accept that?
Right.
But if he says anything, they get him out of the way. You know what I mean?
They'll go
to another team.
The next team.
But how you gonna have a team where you hear LaMelo scored 71 points, and then you watch the video and he's down at the other end of the court waiting? He never crosses half court, and they just throw him the ball down. I mean, who would play a game or play with anybody like that?
No, I think that's a great point. And Rob, and granted, that was an extreme.
No, I know,
example,
I know,
but it happened, and that right there is Exhibit A as to what is going wrong with some of our American basketball. And look, I think for the AAU guys, the problem is that it's not that these guys that coach these teams don't know the game and things like that, but the way it's set up. As you said, they're just playing 5-6 games over a weekend.
Right.
So when are you working on your skills when you're, over the weekend? You're just playing games. And so I think that's a problem. I also think that the international players, whether it was Giannis, whether it was Luka, whether it was Nikola Jokic, whether it's this kid, Victor Wembanyama, when they're young and 14 years old, they're entering the pros over there. And they're playing against grown men. And a lot of times they're coming off the bench. They're not playing a lot. The grown men are the stars, at least initially. And they're just getting beat up by better players. And the coach is on them. And he's really coaching them. He's really, yelling at them. And they remain humble. Whereas here, if you're 16 years old and you're all that, you got millions of Instagram followers.
And if the coach says something, right, exactly.
Right, so what can the coach tell you? So that is a problem, and a lot of kids can feel like they already made it before they really even got to the NBA, or at least got to the NBA and became a star player.
And part of this too, Chris, I'm going to put some of the onus on the teams and the executives who turn a blind eye to this, and they take him because they feel like, well, I got to take this kid, even though he doesn't do this, he won't play, he won't listen, it's hard to be coach because he has so much talent. Yeah. And if you shock a couple of those guys and say, you know what, we're going to pass on you because we want this guy can play the game. And he might be a shade below you, but the other things he brings to the table. But nobody wants to do that, Chris, because if you don't pick him and this guy becomes a star, you're out. You know what I mean? As your job. So it's a self-repeating cycle that they're going to take the most talented guy, whether he's skilled, whether he's coachable, whether he plays winning basketball. Right. They just will take him anyway.
Well, but and you know what you mentioned? I think you started off saying this was an indictment. You know what else was an indictment was the Miami Heat going to the NBA Finals with 7 undrafted players, 4 of them in their rotation.
There you go.
These are Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus. These are all guys that stayed 4 years in college. They're not nearly as talented as the
But they're coachable.
Right. They were humbled in college because they weren't stars. They didn't look like they were going to the NBA. And they're coachable, to your point. They execute because they don't have the talent to get by without executing. So you saw the Miami Heat go to the NBA Finals.
And look at the teams they knocked off on the way to get there.
They beat teams that were more talented, teams that had one-and-done players galore, and that is an indictment. To your point, that's an example of how these guys are, hard work can beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. I didn't make up that saying, but that's a common saying.
Yes.
It's true. And so we have to get in the lab and work hard. And I think finally, Rob, if you look at a Nikola Jokic, he obviously can do everything. He's 7 feet. He can post up. He can shoot. He can pass. He can dribble. We need, and this is happening in some places in America, but we need to take a page out of the Europeans' book and start training our kids the same regardless of how tall they are. So if you're 6 feet tall at 10 years old, you still can work with the guards and work on your ball handling and your jump shot and things like that. And you still can add a post game. A post game is not that difficult where that should be all you can work on. You can work on a post game, you can work on a jump shot, you can work on your ball handling all at the same time. And so that, I think, as well, is something that we need to start teaching our kids. And look, America still, by and large, is the best country in the world for basketball. Our teams should, when we send over our best players to compete internationally, there's not a country, I don't believe, that's going to beat us. But we're talking about the whole world. So like Wembayama's from France. Embiid, is from Cameroon. Giannis is from Greece. Jokic is from Serbia, and Luka's from Slovenia. So we're not talking about one country supplanting America as number one in basketball.
No, but they're coming from all over.
They are right now the best players in the world. The absolute ultra elite are not born on American soil. And so I just think we can learn from them. Some of it's changing, Rob. You mentioned that only 2 of the first 7 picks were played in college. So that's a change right there. Guys are going to these minor leagues, whether it's Overtime Elite or the G League, and they're able to work on their games the whole time, just like they are in Europe when they play pro. So I think that's a step in the right direction. And if a Scoot Henderson, who played it, didn't go to college, and the Thompson brothers, Amen and Asur, if they become stars, then I think, Rob, that really will become the route. And then you're really not going to see the top talent playing NCAA basketball.
Man, it's already there, just about.